Hello and welcome to my presentation. I'm going to be focusing on the Centro Boliviano Americano, or the CBA, which is a school that I taught English as a foreign language at last summer. So my proposal for this school is going to have a new and improved curriculum, and this is going to be guided by authentic communication, cultural competence, and American influences, as well as updated colloquial language and slang and relevant and current events that are happening today. So here I am. I'm the project developer, and there I am in Bolivia from last year. My rationale for this project is knowing what materials would best help this institution in order to meet their cultural and academic goals. So I'm really going to be focusing on the current curriculum that they're having in the program. And since the main goal of the CBA is to promote intercultural communication and more positive ties between Americans and Bolivians, it's really important that the students have authentic materials that are going to help them to be able to communicate in an effective way. Some of the overall goals and objectives or outcomes that I'm going to focus on for this project is giving the students comprehensive text to improve their fluency in reading, giving them more opportunities to practice conversational English in a realistic context, and helping them to become a little more motivated to practice their English skills outside of the classroom. I feel like if students are learning about something that they're actually interested in, they're going to be more motivated to go out and practice it on their own. And with that said, they are mostly focused on helping students to pass scores on TOEFL exams and obtaining reading and writing skills that will help them excel in an American college program overseas. So with that, they're going to be able to focus on academic writing that will help them succeed in those contexts too. So one problem, or my statement of problem, is after observing the current teaching practices and the materials that they're using at the CBA, I, the project developer, talked to the teachers there, and they told me that they wanted to have a little more American context integrated into their curriculum. So a few things that we talked about was that it could really benefit from having updated colloquial language to be used in their speaking activities. So what people actually talk like in the United States is something that they were really interested in. So I taught a workshop on slang when I was there. Using different forms of media text for guided reading practice, so using like news articles or magazine articles, different genres of literature to really broaden their understanding of written language. Using more authentic listening materials, so like news broadcasts or podcasts or things like that to increase their comprehension, as well as maybe listening to different accents that have a little bit of different colloquial language in them, maybe even accents used by non-native speakers in order to broaden their listening comprehension understanding, and writing prompts that are going to help them with their academic careers in American universities. So right here I have the CBA, that's the school that I worked at. We have about 15 to 20 students in each class, and the class sessions run for 4 weeks each. Each class is about an hour and a half every day. So it's a little bit intensive, but the students are there primarily to focus on academic English as well as conversational English. And one of the resources that they have at their disposal is the Abraham Lincoln Library and the computer lab. So they'll be practicing for oral exams, or they'll be writing papers on the computers that they have there. So that's something that they go to before their classes start. And generally the classes include levels 1 through 10, which is kind of like the CEFR scale, but it's a little bit different. It's kind of more broad. So those are the skills that they focus on. So for the school's needs assessment, they really want to focus on creating a learning environment with more exposure to American culture and intercultural communication skills. Another piece that I would like to provide is professional development opportunities for the English teachers. Since a lot of the teachers are non-native speakers of English, they really wanted a little more context on what they can do to improve, and they wanted an American's perspective, which is really the main reason why I was there. And through the curriculum, also having sufficient opportunities for students to practice their skills in a communicative environment. So I'm going to be focusing on communicative language teaching and communicative language learning and some of those methods that I learned about in my methods class at UMBC. So right here it says, great things take time. So with curriculum writing, it's going to take a bit of time. I'm estimating maybe a few months. It could be 6 months. But really, I want to provide something comprehensive that and tangible for the staff to work with there. For my student profile, the majority of the students generally speak Spanish, but they also speak Aymara and Quechua, which are some indigenous languages that are spoken in that region of South America. Students are generally placed into a level based off of their final exam scores of the previous course that they took, or if they're coming for the first time, they're going to take a placement exam in order to put them into the correct level that they need. Usually all the students are enrolled in either a public or private day school that just speaks Spanish, so afterwards they come to our after-school program at the CBA, but that doesn't leave a whole lot of incentive to practice English outside of class. So I really want to motivate these students to want to practice English outside of the classroom at the CBA. So by doing that, I'm going to focus on talking about topics that they're really interested in to increase motivation. Right here are some of the students that I worked with. We're on a field trip right there. And I feel like going out and practicing English in a way outside an environment, sometimes outside of the classroom, can be helpful too. So something that I would want to incorporate into this curriculum are opportunities to learn through doing and going out into public and maybe ordering at a restaurant or things like that to help them, even if they're just role playing in the classroom, things that are done in real time, like role play, are going to help them too. And with that said, grammar is also going to serve as a strong foundation for the 4 language skills, but also kind of going around and learning a little bit of slang too. So having that balance is going to be important for this curriculum. And to kind of play off of that, the ability to differentiate between academic and conversational English, or formal versus informal registers, is going to be something that the students are going to encounter if they're coming to an American university. So for example, if you're talking to a professor, that's going to be a lot different from how you're talking to one of your classmates. So learning how to speak appropriately and write appropriate emails to both contexts is going to be something that I would want to focus on for the curriculum as well. For the teachers, all the teachers are non-native speakers. They're from Bolivia, and they're very invested in teaching English to their students. A lot of them hold an English club on Saturdays to give students extra practice and a chance to take part in American cultural activities. And here are a couple of the teachers right here. That's Elena and Myra. I worked very closely with them, and they gave me a lot of the needs for my needs assessment for the entire school. And really what they wanted me to focus on was being able to get students to be more motivated and to prepare them for future academic endeavors at an English-speaking university, and to give them really enriching experiences, so incorporating activities that not only let them practice conversational English, but help them to prepare for using the TOEFL exam or maybe increasing fluency in their writing. So here are my modules, or the units for my curriculum plan that I'm going to be focusing on. So for the first unit, I would introduce with idiomatic phrases and slang from today that are a little more current. Students are going to be learning through role play, so this is an emphasis on communicative language learning method, and maybe analyzing greetings and language appropriate for casual conversations both in the United States versus in Bolivia. So I'm going to kind of segue that into cultural differences between Americans and Bolivians in the following unit, which would be a nice transition. And with that, I could show compare and contrast writing, as well as incorporating advanced vocabulary like SAT vocabulary that they would be encountering in the TOEFL and university settings. And then after that, I would focus more on scoring jobs that they want. So using modals as my grammar focus to write emails and communicate effectively and politely with professors versus peers. So that goes back into the register piece of what's an appropriate register to be using with speaking and writing. And to focus on listening in addition to speaking, I would have them work with writing their own interview questions and seeing ones that I write up for them, and then participating in peer interviews as well as interviews with their teacher. And this would also be obviously resume and cover letter writing and what would be appropriate to include in those different types of writing pieces. The students were particularly interested in politics in the United States, so this would be helpful in getting them motivated to learn English by incorporating something that they're interested in. So I would have them focus on academic, argumentative writing, structure in essays, participate in debates, to do some listening and speaking practice, and this will give them a little more open-ended time to really elicit some raw language from the students. And here I would have them listen to world news broadcasts to introduce English language in different accents and to really broaden their listening comprehension as well. And here I am with a couple more of my students on 4th of July. So for the final unit, I'm going to be focusing on improving intercultural communication between the US and Bolivia. And with this, I would have them practice writing and speaking through writing letters or having Skype sessions with pen pals from the United States. And reading news articles and proposing written solutions for problems that arise in current events to get some writing practice in there as well. For the budget, I am the project developer, so I would say about 30 an hour for 34 hours that I put in the time to create profiles and needs assessments and unit ideas for the curriculum. And then I would have a curriculum development team. I'm estimating maybe about 2 writers at 30 an hour for 60 hours to $1,800. And that would be $3,600 for 2 writers. And then to implement the curriculum, I would have to factor in costs of printing as well as distribution. So that would bring us to a grand total of $10,970. To evaluate the success of this curriculum, I'm going to use a pre-assessment and a post-assessment survey for teachers to complete in order to really gain some insight onto how well it went. And after reviewing results from the surveys, I'm going to follow up with the teachers and discuss what changes they liked and which ones they would like to keep in the curriculum. And next, I'm going to show you a demonstration of one of the lessons that I would use. So here, this would be from one of the units about a day in the life of an American Bolivian. This is generally the standard lesson plan that I use whenever I'm writing lessons, so this is something that I would want to introduce to the teachers there at the CBA and kind of incorporate into the curriculum. So you have your terminal and enabling objectives, so this is what you want to achieve by the end of the lesson, and these are the steps that you would take in order to get there, so your enabling and language objective. Here I'm focusing on comparing and contrasting writing, as well as factoring in that intercultural communication piece. So I would start with a would you rather game as a warm-up. So I always have my warm-ups kind of have something to do with what the main portion of the lesson is supposed to be. So it's all relevant and it ties together. The presentation is the I do piece of the lesson. So I would have the student or the teacher present what comparing and contrasting is using a Venn diagram. The guided practice is the we do part of the lesson. So the teacher will work with the students together to write down what the similarities and differences between a Bolivian and American culture are. And then independent practice is the you do piece. So I do, we do, and you do for all of the lessons that I create. So the students will be working independently to compare and contrast different foods from the United States and food from Bolivia. And after that, for assessment, I would have them do a think, pair, share, where they talk with a classmate and share what their differences and comparisons were throughout the process. And then this was the Venn diagram that they would use as a copy. And then that is the primary lesson that I would use. So here are my references that I would incorporate in for finding material for the different modules that I would be creating. And this is my biography. And there I am on top of the CBA that's on the roof of the school. Thank you so much for listening to my project.